to demonstrate my love towards Israel. God said, go and take a wife of whoredoms and children of whoredoms, for the land hath committed great whoredom, departing from the Lord. The entire story really depicts Gomer in the light where she was the physical representation of Israel. She was the personification of how Israel was in those days. Israel had not only departed from the Lord, but they were living a whorish lifestyle, jumping from gods to gods to idols, to gods to gods to idols, and so on and so forth. So Gomer was this person that God used to demonstrate the type of lifestyle that Israel was living. And in spite of that, Hosea could not leave Gomer. He could not leave her because Hosea, dare I say it, was like the physical personification of God. And let me explain what I mean when I say this. God and Israel. God was married to Israel. Israel was God's children. They were his chosen children. Hosea was married to Gomer. Gomer was his specific wife. She was the wife that God said, go and take a wife of this type of person. So they had a relationship that I often say, as I said before, it was as if they had a parasitic relationship. She survived off Gomer, of Hosea, and Israel survived off God. They constantly drew, pull out. And when they got what they wanted, they departed into their own way. They departed into their own lifestyle. They departed into their own will, their own desires. But this story is not a story of who was bad and who was good, but it was a story of God. Specifically because of this, it was a story of love. It was a love story. It was a story that demonstrated and depicted the love of God towards his children in such a way that God loved us so much. God loved Israel so much that in spite of all of their terrible acts, their wishy-washy lifestyle, their whorish lifestyle, their jumping from idols to gods to different type of ways of worship, they departed from God. It's like you would think that they had this relationship, they break up to make up. They would break up with God, and when it pleased them, they would go back to God. They'd break up with him again, and then when it pleased them, they would go back to him. They would break up with him again, and when they want something, they would go back and say, Lord, I'm going through a phase, and I need your help. So they'd go and put on the pity party, the sorry for face, they drop my eyes, the puppy dog look that they always show in the movies. They'd go to God with their puppy dog eyes. And God, in his mercy and his loving kindness, would be like, okay, my child, I forgive you. Okay, my child, I love you. Because God is just so amazing. God knew their heart. God knew that their heart was dirty as mud. He knew it, but he chose to love them nonetheless. You see, I'm sharing this to say that in spite of the life that we have lived, in spite of the ways that we have acted, in spite of the things that we have done, God chose to love us. God chose to love us. God chose to love us so much that he put on filthy, dirty human flesh and came and died for us. That's the kind of God that we serve. There is nothing that we can do, and I dare say there is nothing that we can do to let God stop loving us. Nothing. He said, the word says, if I make my bed in hell, He's there. If I make my bed in heaven, He is also there. He loves us so much that wherever we go, whatever we do, He's there. He's there. He's there in spite of everything that we put Him through. I would say, this may sound weird, but I mean, the type of relationship that we have with God sometimes, if I was in His position, I'd be traumatized. I'd be severely traumatized, but I'm not. And God is not man. So He doesn't suffer those emotions that we suffer. God is not man. So I look at it to say, this is a traumatic situation, but God look at it to say, this is an opportunity for me to show them how much I love them. This is an opportunity for me to show Shanique how much I love her, Mary how I love her, Paulette how I love her, Philippa how I love her, Althea how I love her, John how I love him. This is an opportunity for me to show this person how much I love him or her. So while we looked at it to say that, there is trauma and there is pain and there is great frustration, there is all of that. There was a time when Gomer, she divorced Hosea, so to speak. She left him with their children. And she moved in with one of the rich men because she was living a whoredom lifestyle. So she liked the finer things of the world. And Hosea was a poor man. He was just a potter. He didn't have much money, but he had what he needed. But Gomer did not see it that way. Gomer wanted it and then some. She wanted all. She wanted the finer things, the classy jewelry, the fancy hairstyle, the nails on her finger, the eyelash long up and all of that, the fancy heels. And putting Gomer in the 21st century. She wanted the fancy this and the fancy that. She want to drive in the big Benz. She don't want to have to ride on horseback. Or better yet, she don't want to have to walk. Because in those days, when you could have ride on a horseback, you had the money. Because horseback was not cheap in those days. Horseback back in those days was like driving a Benz. Or driving a Toyota, so to speak. That was horseback in those days. But she didn't want horseback. She wanted the Benz. She wanted the carriage. She wanted the finer things of life. So there was a time when she left from her husband's house, moved in with another man, and the move that she moved in demonstrated the moving away of Israel from God, the breakup of Israel from God, the moving away of Israel to a life of uncleanness. They walked away. They said, you know what, God? I don't have time for you. As we Jamaicans would say, I ain't got no time for you. I have other things on my mind. I have other things on my schedule. I have other things in my diary. I'll check you back later. Amen. We set ourselves. Israel would have set itself in a position where when they wanted God, they would go, and God in His mercy would accept them because He loved them. He loved them. But then there came a day when God said to Hosea, go, pick your wife. Go and take up your wife, and pay off all that she owes. So he was basically paying back her bride price again. He took her back out of a life of whoredom again. Because this would demonstrate God going back for His people again. God in His mercy stretching forth His hand saying, here I am. Here I am. It demonstrated the love that God have for us, his children. God loves us so much that he put on human flesh and came down here and became a curse, because the Bible says any man that dieth on a cross is accursed. Amen. So God literally became a curse for us. God became a curse so that we did not have to be the curse, so that we did not have to die for our own sins, so that we did not have to live the life that would set us in a position of eternal damnation. God came because his love is unconditional. His love is a love in spite of. The in spite of love. We often quote marriage vows when we get married, and while I'm not yet married, there's a part of the marriage vows that says till death do us part. But a lot of us have a tendency to say till I'm tired of you, till you get on my nerves, till I need something better, till this lifestyle no longer suits me. But God did not say till your lifestyle no longer suits me. God literally says till death do us part, and then some.
Amen.
Because even after death, he is still loving us. Even after death, he is still adoring us. Even after death, praise be to God, he gave us the opportunity to live for him, to live in him, to live with him. And the live that we live with him, it's not in a situation where we're suffering, but we're living in his kingdom. He said, I go to prepare a mansion, a place for you. And if I go, I will come and receive you unto myself. Hello?
Yes,
I don't
Lord.
have a fancy house in this life yet. I have hopes, I have dreams. I want a nice house, I want a nice car, and a good husband, a man that loves the Lord. I want beautiful children that love the Lord. I want all of that. But none of that matters if I'm not saved. None of that matters if I am not living the way God has called me to live. None of that matters if the life that I'm living does not glorify God. None of that matters if when I die, the Lord says to me, depart from me, I know you not. None of that matters. The fancy car, the 10-bedroom house, the 10 children, the whatever it is, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if when you die, the Lord says to you, sorry, I never knew you. I have no record of your birth. By then it would have been too late. By then it would have been too late to say, Lord, forgive me. By then the only thing God would say to us, go and serve the man that you have served on earth. There comes a point in our lives that the only thing that we need to do is to make the decision to serve God.
Yes.
To serve God in spite of. There comes a time when we have to take a step back and evaluate. God, does this make sense? It's like when you're in school, and I give God thanks since I've started university, or this batch of university, I've never failed a course. I've never failed a course. But that would not have been the case if I did not work to not fail the course. If I did not work to keep the high GPA. If I did not work to maintain the scholarship grants and all of that. If I did not do the work.
Amen.
We have to do the work to get the reward. We have to do the work to get the award. We have to do the work. God does not ask us for much. He doesn't ask us for anything. He just says, I want your heart. That's all I want from you. All he wants is our heart.
Amen.
He wants us to live for him. Choose to live for Jesus today. Choose to love Jesus. Choose to surrender to him with your whole heart. I remember a few years after I gave back my life to the Lord, that I had a vision or a dream or one of those somethings that the Lord said to me, you need to completely surrender to me. And I was like, huh? In my mind, in my earthly physical mind, I had completely surrendered the moment I said, Lord, take the wheel. The moment I said, Jesus, forgive me. I had in my mind, this is almost 3 years, So I'm like, in my mind, I'm good. I'm
Right.
fine. I'm living the life. I'm walking the walk. I'm talking the talk. I'm doing what God says I should do. But God said to me, you need to completely surrender. So that means there's some part of me that isn't completely surrendered.
Yes.
And I didn't understand it. I didn't understand it. But as I grew more and more in the Lord, I would get to understand that, thanks be to God, He did not take me before. My understanding was clear. But as I grew more and more in the Lord, I got to understand that there were various parts of my life that was not completely surrendered. And dare I say it, even to now, some parts of me are still not completely surrendered. Because if we are truly being honest with ourselves, a lot of us have not completely surrendered.
Amen.
There is that one little thing, that little tiny something, God, it's only this little thing, Lord. This little thing, and we'll put on a little cute voice for God. It's only this little thing, Lord. It's just a little thing. It's not all that. It's not the big one. It's not the big one, God. It's just this little thing. Can I just hold on to this little thing? No, you can't. Let it go. Surrender to the Lord. Nothing that you do for God is going to fail.
Amen.
Nothing that you do for God will fall back on your head. But it will reap its reward that it is set forth in its season.
Mm.
So if God says to you, completely surrender, it simply means that you have not yet completely surrendered. Whether it's a job or a title, you must be completely surrendered, because no sin cannot enter into heaven. Pure white garments. Let us be wise. Let us not be like the 5 foolish virgins who did not bring enough oil in their lamps. And the oil represents the anointing. The oil represents the dedication. The oil represents the commitment. The oil represents complete surrender. Let us not be like the foolish virgins, but let us be like the wise, who was prepared and ready, waiting. We know not when God is going to return. We know not when. We know not if it's tomorrow or 10 years from now. I often hear people say, I've been hearing that God is coming back from before I was born. So when he comes, he comes. But that's the thing. We hear that God is coming back before we were born. Stories have been told that he was going to come back. But get this, he will come back. He said this, the heaven and the earth shall pass away before a jot or tittle of my word return to me void. That's what he said. So that simply means this. If he says that he's going to come back, guess what? He's going to come back. Whether it is 10 years from now, 10 months, 10 minutes, 10 seconds, 10 days, 10 centuries, however long it takes, He is going to come back. He is going to come back. Amen. He is going to come back. But our responsibility while waiting is that we are prepared. Israel in the story, eventually they repented and gave back their hearts to the Lord. They repented and gave back their minds, and they completely, yeah. I can say completely at this point, yeah. They completely surrendered their lives to the Lord by this time. Amen. Israel eventually gave up on the idolatrous ways that they lived for a season, because they eventually walked away again. But the point is this, that they repented. The point is this, that they surrendered. They came and said, Lord, if you will have me, here I am. We're not worthy of his grace. We're not worthy of his mercy. We're not worthy of nothing that he does, of his loving kindness. We are not worthy. We are not. But if we completely surrender, put aside our titles, or our fancy this and our ways, and say, Lord, if you will have me, here I am. If we will choose to say, Lord, here I am, God will say, come, my child.
Amen.
God will receive you unto himself. Amen. The Lord
Amen.
bless you tonight. The Lord bless you. The Lord bless you this morning, rather.